the 15th Jaipur Literature Festival, protected by Dettol Banega Swasth India at the Jan Mikulski Baithak. This session is Poetry Hour, streaming the multiverse. The speakers are A.J. Thomas, Kynpham Singh Nongkynrih, Meena Kandasamy, Nand Bhardwaj, and Ranjit Hoscote, moderated by Lakshya Datta, presented by ABP Live. Lakshya Datta is a writer and broadcast producer. He is the founder of Launchora, a storytelling platform and narrative podcast company, home to 240,000 storytellers and 15 podcast shows. Lakshya also hosts Jaipur Bites, the Jaipur Literature Festival podcast, and he was named India's top podcaster of 2021 by Geo7. May we please welcome Lakshya on stage, and he will introduce all the speakers for the session.
Good evening. Everyone can hear me? Loud enough? Hello, welcome to Poetry Hour. This is day 3 of us doing the stream, the Multiverse. It's a very simple format. I'm gonna call the poets on stage. I will introduce them each before their own reading. So let's just welcome everyone right now. A.J. Thomas, Kynpham Singh Nongkynrih, Meena Kandasamy, Nand Bhardwaj, and Ranjit Hoscote. So, if you haven't been to Poetry Hour before, I will tell you that the format will go like this. We have 5 poets. They will perform their poetry in this order that we're sitting in. It'll be we have 48 minutes. This clock has started at 40 minutes for some reason. We shall see what that means, but we'll go till 6:30. There'll be about 8 to 9 minutes each, and yeah, that's it. So we're going to start off with our first poet. A.J. Thomas is a poet, editor, and translator who writes in English. He has more than 20 books to his credit and is the former editor of Indian literature, Sahitya Akademi's bi-monthly journal. Thomas taught English at Benghazi University, Libya, and worked as a senior consultant at IGNOU. He's a recipient of the Katha Award, AKMG Prize, and the Vodafone Crossword Award for translation. AJ holds a senior fellowship, Government of India, and was an honorary fellow, Department of Culture, Government of South Korea. AJ, the stage is yours.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me thank the organizers of the Jaipur Literary Festival for inviting me to read my poems. I'll begin with a poem titled In the Eyes of the Beholder. The title, In the Eyes of the Beholder. It was a dream, and as dreams go, the details are vague. And Coleridge-like, I committed to this digital file what was fresh in my memory once I woke up. I was rolling on the marsh from where the waters of the backwater had receded at low tide. Most unnaturally, the ground was firm, the grass blades smoothed over by a deposit of silt, but miraculously not forming slush. I rolled on such a floor, and there was no dirt sticking to my shirt, its snow-white appearance not sullied. Those standing around exclaimed, "You are rolling in mud. Get out of it before the high tide swells, before it is too late to save yourself." But I looked at myself, found that I was spick and span, and told the onlookers so. They gazed on far at the horizon as the tsunami wave of total annihilation was sweeping its way up. So that is In the Eye of the Beholder. The next one is titled Eyes. It is in the backdrop of our pandemic, to be precise, after the second wave. Eyes. I can see only your eyes outside the mask. The quaintly amused, then suddenly sparkling recognition of my masked face dawning in them. As your heart surges, the fire suddenly burns in your eyes, the bashful pursing of your lips well concealed behind the cloth. The forward thrust of your body to fall into my arms arrested midway on second thoughts of keeping the distance. Withdrawing the outstretched hand, shying away for want of gloves. Unable to meet on campus, locked down for more than a year, missing your hug for so long, forgetting the warmth of your body's light press, avid to at least hold your hands. But you withdraw. In the whole sequence of movements in this weird choreography, the phantom of a fiery lip lock groans. Now we can only stand 2 meters apart, hands crossed across our chests, and merely love with our eyes, employing Navarasa bhavas to the full. That's over. The next one is titled Sarmad Shaheed. So I revisited the Jama Masjid area and Balimaran some time ago, which inspired 2 poems. The first one is on the martyr Sarmad, who was executed by the Emperor Aurangzeb. The king is naked, cried the innocent child. Power is naked, the unsheathed sword. Truth is naked too, innocence can see it. The two often clash in battle, sparks flying. Sticking to nudity is the ultimate truth speaking. That's what Sarmad did, the absolute unconformity outside the frames of the established. If Mansur al-Hallaj declared, I am the truth, chanting Anal Haq, Sarmad did something similar, saying only the La ilaha part of the kalima, leaving out Illa Allah, perhaps implying there is no God outside but within oneself. Dazed by the unraveling, Aurangzeb had him beheaded outside the eastern gate of the Juma Masjid, where the headless Sarmad danced on the steps, carrying his head in his hands before giving up the ghost, as the legend goes. Courtesy William Dalrymple, City of Jinns. No, not yet, not over. Standing on the very steps, I frame a picture of his red dargah below with the Kila-e-Muala, or the exalted fortress, which was eventually reduced to the simple Lal Kila to suit the latter-day reality of total decrepitude looming in the skyline behind. So that is the end of the poem. The last one, Gallip's Haveli in Balimaran Road. In spite of being in Delhi for more than 2 decades, I was visiting Gallip's Haveli on Balimaran Road off Chandni Chowk for the first time. The timeless poet shares his home now with a shop. Never mind, faring better than many of Delhi's beloved bards who upheld the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb and yet have left no earthly trace. One can only gaze around at the relics of his life with a lump rising to one's throat. Such exalted conceits, wordcraft, humor, unbending sense of honor bruised by history's nasty turns. Perpetually in debt, yet never perturbed in his angelic self. Homeless, ever roaming in spirit, he would have little value for a majestic dwelling place like this. He would even forgive the garish facelift given to his long-lived in one-time quarters. He knows these and the countless tomes churned out about him are well-meaning attempts to keep his memory alive. He would even forgive this, my lame verse in his name. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Our next poet is Kynpham Singh Nongkynrih, an award-winning poet and writer who writes in Khasi and English. His latest works are Funeral Nights, The Yearning of Seeds, and Time's Barter, Haiku, and Sindhu. In 2018, he was awarded a Tagore Fellowship by IIAS Shimla. At present, he teaches literature at Northeastern Hill University. Kynpham, the stage is yours.
A very good afternoon or early evening to all of you. I will not try to explain the poems. I don't want to lose time doing that. But unfortunately, I will have to just explain a reference or two that I made to, when I play the numbers. This refers to the archery gambling in Shillong, where some people would buy a number based on the interpretation of their dreams. The other one is, I refer to the sacred groves. These are community forests, prohibited through sanctification. These are found in almost every village in the Khasi Hills of Meghalaya. I'm reading one of my old poems. It's called Blasphemous Lines for Mother. Blasphemous Lines for Mother. R.K. Narayan is dead. Tonight he sits pensive in his bamboo chair, talking of a very rare soul. Suddenly, I'm seized by a desire to vivisect my own very rare soul from end to end. Let me begin by saying, my mother is more plain dealing, more truth telling than Narayan's. My mother is retired, toothless, diabetic, and bedeviled by headaches and a blinding cataract. In short, she is a cantankerous old woman. I remember the time when she was a cantankerous young woman. When she took an afternoon nap, she was tigerish. You sons of a vagina, she would snarl. You won't even let me rest for a moment, sons of a fiend. Come here, sons of a beast. If I get you, I'll lame you, I'll maim you, sons of a louse. You feed on the flesh that breeds you. Make a sound again when I sleep, and I'll thrash you till you howl like a dog. You irresponsible nitwits, how will I play the numbers if I don't get a good dream? How will I feed you, sons of a lowbred? And this fiery salvo would come hurtling with wooden stools, iron tongues, and bronze blowers as we ran for our lives, and she gave chase with canes and firewood, her hair flying loose, her eyes inflamed, and her tongue lashing with mad rage. And we, being but children, would never learn anything except becoming experts at dodging her unconventional weapons. I remember how, having no daughter, she would make me wash her blood-stained rags. Refusal out of the question. So, always I would pick them with sticks and pestle them in an old iron bucket till the water cleared. But mind you, all this on the sly, seeing me not using my hands would be lethal. Those days in Chera, we never knew what a toilet was. We never had a septic tank or a service latrine. We simply did our job in our sacred groves. But sometimes my mother would do her job in a trash can. Then it would fall on me to ferry the cargo to a sacred grove. Refusal, out of the question. So, always I would sprinkle ash upon it, top it with betel nut peels and things, and do my best to avoid nosy neighbors and playmates. Those who have seen Kamal Hassan in Pushpak will understand my stratagem. I could cite 1,001 things to demonstrate how cantankerously rare my mother is. And I decline to tell you anything good about her. I'm not an Aryan, and I decline to tell you how she suffered when my bibulous father was alive, or how she suffered when he died, or how she suffered rearing her 2 sons and her dead sisters, toddlers, in the proper way. There's only one thing commendable I will admit about her. If she had married again and not been the cantankerous woman that she is, I probably would not be standing here reading this poem today. Thank you. The next one is called A Letter to the Sky. This is about a madman that we have in Shillong. The madman of Laj Umkra goes to the local post office to post his letter to the sky. A letter to the sky, how much? To humor him, they say, 1 rupee, 1 rupee for a letter to the sky. He tenderly puts the letter in a wide envelope, writes down his address, and puts it in a red box, pretty sure it would be delivered to the sky. After a few days, he returns. No reply has come to my house. Has it come to the post office? The clerk says with a smile, nothing has come, perhaps in a while. To her colleagues, she says, he sends a letter to the sky and expects a reply. Imagine a letter to the sky and he expects a reply. Poor, poor fool, mad, mad, mad. And they laugh at the lunatic. They pity him, and they go to their places of worship, and they pray to their gods in the sky. Thank you. The last one, a brief
We have
one.
1
A
minute.
brief one.
1 minute.
Yeah. It may not take that long, you know. This is called Nameri. It's the introductory poem to a proposed new collection called Nameri, a verse romance. Nameri, this is a Khasi name. Nameri, many have asked me, who is Nameri? Even you, Nameri. In all the world, There is only one Mary, na Mary the place, na Mary the woman, na Mary from God who protects her, from me who loves her, na Mary my sad happiness, na Mary my sweet sadness. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kynpham. Our next poet is, Sir, Meena ji is first. Meena Kandasamy is an anti-caste activist, poet, novelist, and translator. She deconstructs trauma and violence, most notably in her books of poems, Touch and Miss Militancy, as well as her 3 novels, The Gypsy Goddess, When I Hit You, and Exquisite Cadavers. Her latest work is a collection of essays called The Orders Were to Rape You, Tamil Tigresses in the Elam Struggle. Her novels have been shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction, International Dylan Thomas Prize, Jhalak Prize, and the Hindu Lit Prize. Meena, the stage is yours.
Thank you. These are new poems from my forthcoming collection, and I have chosen to put together some political poetry. The first one was written in honor of Jyoti Singh Pandey, who died as a result of the violent rape in Delhi in 2012. Sangharsh karna hai. Hear the hurried truth, day after day after day, of battling death and keeping him at bay. You became the star, taking struggle in her stride, and we became the body breaking free. We became the scream cutting loose from the curse of silence. We became the protest that poured like blood from a wounded knight, and learning from you, we became the flesh that became the fight. The second poem was written after Hathras. So this is called Rape Nation. In Hathras, cops barricade a young woman's home, hijack her corpse, set it afire on a murderous night, deaf to her mother's howling pain. In a land where Dalits cannot rule, they cannot rage or even mourn. This has happened before, this will happen again. What does that fire remember? The screams of satis dragged to their husbands' pyres and brides burnt alive. The wails of caste-crossed lovers put to death. The tongue-chopped shrieking of raped women. This has happened before. This will happen again. Manu said once, so his dickheads repeat today. All women are harlots. All women are base. All women seek is sex. All they shall have is rape. Manu gives men a license plate, or such rape template. This has happened before, this will happen again. This has happened before, this will happen again. Sanatan, the only law of the land that is in force. Sanatan, where nothing will ever change. Always a victim-blaming slut template, a rapist shielding police state, a caste-denying fourth estate. This has happened before, this will happen again. This poem is called India is My Country. It was written, I think, during the second wave of the pandemic. India is my country. Like the fascist who led us to this ruin, death has also learned to wear a different disguise these days. No heavy as sorrow rose marigold garlands, no one tying up the corpse's big toes together, no one folding the rigid hands as if in prayer, no one wrapping them in fresh silk clothes, no freezer boxes attached to power outlets, no one spraying Eudiclin so the dead keep fresh through the wake. No one stuffing the ears and nostrils of the corpse with cotton balls. No one fussing about with a coin on the dead one's forehead. No women singing dirges. No women beating their breasts or tearing their clothes. No steady stream of visitors. No howling cries that ripple through the room. No bossy men to say women and children cannot come to graveyards. No cousins poking you in the ribs and saying the next body will fall in your home. No booze, no funeral drums, no pallbearers, no coffins, no vicaricy, none of the hysteria we came to associate with death, none of the collective catharsis, none of the never-ending tears. Only the endless sight of anonymous corpses wrapped in white, plastic streaming out from ambulances, a lone relative who builds the pyre with a lot of help, rows and rows and rows of open-air pyres with wood mercilessly piled close together to contain the flames, unrepentant fire and ash, cremation workers moving around in the smoky days, recycling the wood that has not had the heart to burn. On this last journey, no mortal remains, no farewells, no last words. We mourn for the dead, we mourn for our numbness, we mourn for the lost pride that let us say each day, India is my country. And now we feebly add, my country is a crematorium. This poem is dedicated to those who are arrested under Bhima Koregaon. But this was originally written in 2015 when two of my close friends, Jason Cooper and Tushar Sarathi, were arrested under the UAPA. Tomorrow someone will arrest you. Tomorrow someone will arrest you and will say the evidence is that there was some problematic book in your house. Tomorrow someone will arrest you and your friends will see on TV the media calling you terrorist because the police do. Tomorrow someone will arrest you. They will scare all the lawyers. The ones who takes up your case will be arrested next week. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. Your friends will find you active on Facebook a day later. It's the police logged in as you. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. Your friends will find that it'll take 4 days to find 1,000 people to sign a petition. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. Your little child will learn what UAPA stands for. Your friends will learn of Section 13. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. You will be a leftist to the people. You will be an ultra-leftist to the leftists. No one will speak. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. The day after that, you will be considered a terrorist for life. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. The police will prepare a list of names. Anyone who would protest will be named. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. You will be warned. You will be a warning to everyone fighting corporate loot and police state. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. Your home will be searched tonight. You will be taken for questioning now. Stop speaking. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. The court, in a rare gesture, will give you the benefit of bail. The police will re-arrest you in another case. This will go on and on. Tomorrow, someone will arrest your children. You will be underground. The police will tell your old mother to consume poison and feed it to the kids. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you, your partner, your children, your children's children. Some measures are essential to keep a democracy alive. Long live silence. This poem is actually a translation by me. These are lines of the 7th century Tamil Bhakti poet called Appar or Tirunavukarasar. And it's very important because these were spoken in the context of the freedom of religion and people rejecting, the state coming into what is a very personal sphere, but also people rejecting to be misgoverned. நாமார்க்கும் குடியல்லோம் நமனை அஞ்சோம் நரகத்தில் இடர்படோம் நடலை இல்லோம். We are not the subjects of anyone. We do not fear the God of death. We shall not suffer were we to end in hell. We have no deception, we have no illusions. நாமார்க்கும் குடியல்லோம் நமனை அஞ்சோம் நரகத்தில் இடர்படோம் நடலை இல்லோம். Nobody's citizens and nobody's slaves, fearless of lynchings and beheadings, unscathed by the torrent of hellfires. We do not tremble at certain death. நாமார்க்கும் குடியல்லோம் நமனை அஞ்சோம் நரகத்தில் இடர்படோம் நடலை இல்லோம். As people, we refuse to be ruled. As people, we refuse to die. As people, we refuse to suffer. As people, we refuse to be deceived. நாமார்க்கும் குடியல்லோம் நமனை அஞ்சோம் நரகத்தில் இடர்படோம் நடலை இல்லோம். Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Meena. Our next poet is Nand Bhardwaj, a well-known Rajasthani and Hindi writer, as well as a media expert. He's written 24 books in Rajasthani, Hindi, as poetry, novels, short stories, literary criticisms, and interviews with eminent scholars, including books on electronic media and culture, are published to his credit. Also translated Albert Camus's The Outsider into Rajasthani, recipient of numerous awards, and a retired senior director of Doordarshan Kendra Jaipur, and currently working as a regional advisor to the Jaipur Literature Festival. Nandji, the stage is
थैंक यू
yours.
लक्ष्य। अब मेरे पास 12 मिनट है जिसमें मुझे और रंजीत को दोनों को आपको कविता प्रस्तुत करनी है।
नहीं सर, आप ये क्लॉक गलत है, आपके पास 10 मिनट है।
ओके,
10 मिनट। रंजीत के पास उसके बाद 10 मिनट। हाँ।
मैं 2 भाषाओं में तो सीधे तौर पर लिखता हूँ, राजस्थानी और हिंदी। तो पहले एक वानगी के तौर पर अपनी मातृभाषा राजस्थानी में प्रस्तुत करूँगा, फिर अपनी कुछ कविताएं हिंदी में प्रस्तुत करूँगा। हमारी कविता का शीर्षक है शोध लिवी पृथ्वी। हमने पृथ्वी ढूंढ ली, ज़मीन प्राप्त कर ली। यही कोशिश हम पूरी ज़िंदगी करते हैं कि अपनी ज़मीन तलाश कर लें। थारा सपना में अवसर तो धारो धार, ने तेसाई धरणी रो काड़ो मेघ वेतो। थारा सपना में अवसर तो धारो धार, मैं तेसाई धरणी रो काड़ो मेघ वेतो। बावड़ तो मगना सु थोथी थड़िया रे मंजार, थारी जागती अंचिंछामा सपना सार तो। बावड़ तो मगरा सु थारी थोथी थड़िया रे मंजार, थारी जागती इंछावा सपना सार तो। अबे तो लीरा लीर भेगी मारी हूस, अबे तो लीरा लीर भेगी मारी हूस। और मंगसी पड़गी चवरी चढ़िए चुड़लेरी मजीठ, पड़ हिचकता आफड़ता आपा आभ्यार पताड़ बिचे शोध लिवी पृथ्वी, आपा शोध लिवी पृथ्वी। मैं जिस इलाके से आता हूँ वहाँ पानी सबसे बड़ी प्रेशियस चीज़ मानी जाती है। पेयजल मिल जाए, पीना का पानी मिल जाए तो इससे बड़ी और उपलब्धि क्या होगी। जहाँ लोग मीलों कंधे पर घड़ा मटकी उठा करके अपने घर की प्यास बुझाने की कोशिश करते हैं, वहाँ पानी के एक घड़ी का क्या मूल्य होगा, ये इसको कविता में कहने की कोशिश है। इस प्राचीन श्रृंखला के पार जितनी दूर भी आ सकें आप, रेतीले धूरों में बिखरी बस्तियों के बीच, जहाँ घरों में एक घड़ा पानी ही उसकी पूंजी होता है। सूरज, चांद और सितारे होते हैं उजास के आदिम स्रोत, बिजली सिर्फ बादलों में निवास करती है और पानी पृथ्वी की अतल गहराइयों में मौन दुर्लभ देवता। कोई गिले शिकवे की बात नहीं है, आने को लोग आ जाते हैं तफरीह की तर्ज पर और लौट जाते हैं उस अजनबी की सैलानी की तरह जो नज़ारों की खोज में भटकता फिरता है आके जहान में। उन्हें अपने सालों और बेनूर दीवारों की खातिर कुछ तस्वीरें लेनी होती हैं, नई सजानी होती है। अपनी सूनी और बेजान इमारतों की शान उन्हें आकर्षित करते हैं। बूंद बूंद पानी के लिए तरसती रेत के दुर्लभ दर्शाव और सिर पर घड़ा उठाए पसीने से तरबतर पनिहारिनों का पिघलता यौवन, उनका तार तार परिधान उन्हें आकर्षित करते हैं। अपनी नियोजित यात्रा में वे नहीं दे जान पाते रोजी और जीवारी के लिए भटकते इंसान का अवसाद। एक घड़ा पानी के लिए दूर तक जाती क्षितिज के पार, आकाश और पाताल को एक करती घरनी की अंतर्वेदना वे नहीं जान पाते। एक कविता है, कहीं तो होंगे अभयारण्य। जब उलट पुलट गई हो सारी कायनात, हवा के शोर में डूबी भयातुर चिड़ियों की चहकार, कौन जाने कितने पेड़ साबुत बच गए होंगे, कितने परिंदे रहे होंगे सलामत, कितनी झाड़ियाँ प्रजातियाँ कौन कौन सी शेष रह गई होंगी इस अशांत बियाबान में। सूक्ष्म जीव जंतुओं की नियति को यदि छोड़ भी दिया जाए उन्हीं के हाल पर, तब भी अमीर ने संवारने को बहुत कुछ बच गए होंगे संभावित जीवन के अवशेष इस तूफान में। इस सामने दिखते घायल बरगद की छाँव में कितने शरणागतों को मिला होगा आसरा, जैसे पुरखों ने बड़े चाव से उगाया था बस्ती के बीचों बीच। और ऐसे न जाने कितने और दरख्त उखड़ कर बह गए होंगे समय के टूटते प्रवाह में। परिंदे नहीं जानते कि समय कैसा बर्ताव करेगा उनके साथ। परिंदे नहीं जानते कि समय कैसा बर्ताव करेगा उनके साथ। जब सारे हल्के में कहर मचा होगा। वे उड़ते रहेंगे क्षितिज के पार, जहाँ हरे भरे खेत होंगे, लहलहाती फसलें होंगी, ढलानों पर दूर दूर तक पसरी होगी हरियाली, कहीं तो होंगे अभयारण्य, दुर्लभ पक्षियों के समूह। अचानक उड़ जाने का अनचाहा एहसास इन रूखे सूखे दरख्तों की देह में। ऐसे ही आएगी बहार, ऐसे ही गुजर जाएगी समय की बेरहम दुश्वारियाँ। और एक अंतिम छोटी सी कविता है, पीढ़ियों का पानी। हम जो भारतीय लोग हैं जीवन की निरंतरता में विश्वास करते हैं। हम कहते हैं, और विज्ञान भी यही कहता है, कि पदार्थ नष्ट नहीं होता, आत्मा भी नष्ट नहीं होती। इस सनातन सृष्टि की उत्पत्ति से ही जुड़ा है मेरा रक्त संबंध। इस सनातन सृष्टि की उत्पत्ति से ही जुड़ा है मेरा रक्त संबंध। अपने आदिम रूप में मुझ तक आती असंख्य पीढ़ियों का पानी दौड़ रहा है मेरे ही आकार में। पृथ्वी की अतल गहराइयों में संचित लावे की तरह मुझ में सुरक्षित है पुरखों की आदिम ऊर्जा। पृथ्वी की अतल गहराइयों में संचित लावे की तरह मुझ में सुरक्षित है पुरखों की आदिम ऊर्जा। उसी में साधना है मुझे अपना राग। मेरे ही तो सहोदर हैं ये दरख्त ये वनस्पतियाँ, मेरे ही तो सहोदर हैं ये दरख्त ये वनस्पतियाँ। मेरी आंखों में तैरते हरियाली के बिंब, अनगिनत रंगों में खिलते फूलों के मौसम। अरबों प्रजातियाँ जीवधारियों की खोजती है मुझ में अपने होने की पहचान। इस सनातन सृष्टि की उत्पत्ति से ही जुड़ा है मेरा रक्त संबंध। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Nandji. Our final poet, I will ask you to stay here until I finish this bio, Ranjit, because I have some beef with you now. So, Ranjit, I'll just tell you the bio I have here. Ranjit is a poet, critic, cultural theorist, and independent curator who is the recipient of the Sahitya Akademi Award, the Sahitya Akademi Golden Jubilee Award, and the Sahitya Akademi Prize for Translation. His collections of poetry include Vanishing Acts, Central Time, Jonah Whale, and Hunch Prose. His translation of a celebrated 14th century Kashmiri woman mystics poetry has appeared as I Lalla, the poems of Lal Ded. Now, the thing I wanted to share with you all is Ranjit is a friend, I would say. We've known each other for a while, met at this festival through Namita Gokhale. And I take my job as moderator very seriously. And I printed this morning. And it's all the bios of all the people here today. But only Ranjit would decide to make this bio outdated, because an hour ago he decides to win an award. He won the Kanhaiya Lal Sethia Award for Poetry an hour ago. So here is our final poet, Ranjit Hoscote. You have all the time in the world, Ranjit.
It's a fatal invitation, but thank you so much. It was a really gracious and generous introduction. Thanks, Lakshya. And it's just marvelous to share this platform with all of these marvelous colleagues. And, as a character in a long-forgotten Beckett play says, looking out, inspiring prospects. So it's absolutely amazing to have such a large and wonderful audience for poetry. Thank you for being here. I'm going to start with a poem called Sand. क्योंकि नंद जी आपके कविताओं में जो रेगिस्तान और क्षितिज के जो तस्वीरें छाई हुई हैं, I thought I would respond to that in some way. Sand. In the kingdom of sand, the three-eyed man is king. He measures the dunes by what's left of meteor trails and camel tracks, trusts only what he can smell. Cloth is a cage, so he wears what's real, nudges the trapped horizons awake, calls out to his horsemen in sparse flights of lightning. When the rain comes, it will be war, and he can see the script unravel 3 ways every single time, an eye for each tense, 1 tight eye to shut out the wind, 1 eye that was taken for an eye, 1 eye wide as the ocean, as forgiving with which he once saw a bird swoop down on a listing ship, perch and take wing, circle and point across a tsunami of sand. Can it bring him home? And then I'm going to read a poem called Market, which actually is, I know Meena responded very strongly to it, so to me it's very important that as poets we might work in solitude, but we also form these connections. We might see one another very rarely, occasionally, but there is a community and even I would say a family of poets, which is what sustains us and our work. So, Market. Never forget the salt makers. They can trap the sea. Never forget the makers of flint knives. They can split the earth. Never forget the spice sellers. They can tempt the tongue to sing. Never forget the kite makers. They can scissor the wind into streamers. Never forget the carpenters. They can build horses that breach walled cities. Never forget those who stretch hide into leather. They can craft drums that bring down palaces. And this one is called Hawk, and it goes like this. Caught up on the wave of the past, a hawk swirls back, ripping the seamed and sutured scar of our passage. Its wings are lined with scripts no one can read, but everyone brawls over. In this city of howling dogs and winning saints, the blood that spurts under its claws is common. The sort you could smell anywhere, the sort you can smell everywhere. Suffer us all, dear God of many names, to come together and feed ourselves to that insatiable beak. Okay, just a couple more poems. These are unpublished. This one's called In This Country of Silence. In this country of silence, soldiers are burning newspapers. Missing hosts call to give their baffled guests directions to the East Harbor, which fills with the foghorns of unseen ships, while plumbers hunt for silver spoons, hoping their ladders won't give way. In this country of cunning, patrons looking for doors in the wind find that bats read floor plans better than architects. What can I say about this magic show when across the shriveling hours I see the shops in the market bringing down their shutters and the clouds apologize as a sandstorm rises? In this country of exile, charred wisps of newspapers float across the river. No drumbeat follows, no plucked string shivers. In their wake, the sun is a searchlight. The jars in every stall brim with strawberry juice, and this tongue's gone dry, waiting for refugee songs to return. And I'll close with a poem that's called Lesson, because we live in a time when far too many people in power are busy taking on the role of pedagogues to tell us what to do, how to behave, where to belong, who to marry, and the list goes on and on. It's dedicated to a fine young poet and scholar from Kashmir called Asya Zahoor. Lesson for Asya Zahoor. The professor warned us not to say a word. He turned to the blackboard and drew a line through our country with his screeching chalk. wrote 2 names to identify its broken parts. From today, he said, you can forget your flag. Leave your spoken language at home. The classroom windows rattled in the wind. He'd forgotten to chain it to the bent willow. The boatman on the lake outside was singing. The professor made a note to abolish him. We won't be needing these walnut screens, he said. I'd like all of you to be completely transparent. When he clapped his hands and blew on them, clouds of chalk dust settled on our desks, burying them for years in snow. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ranjit. It truly has been a privilege to sit as an audience member and listen to the amazing poets we've been having all week. Thank you all for being here. This is our 3rd poetry hour. We have the final poetry hour tomorrow at the same time, 5:40 here at the Baitak. And one final round of applause for our amazing poets today. Thank you. And please keep the applause going for the Baitak team and all the volunteers who've been helping us out. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all the speakers, A.J. Thomas, Kynpham Singh, Nongkynrih, Meena, Kandasamy, Nand, Bhardwaj, Ranjit Hoscote, and the amazing Lakshya Datta. This session was presented by ABP Live.